And we are going to add more perspective and context to what has happened in the courtroom. Our coverage continues right now. We welcome back to the news desk Ronnie Richter of Bland Richter Law Firm. Thank you so much for being with us again.
Glad to be here.
We just heard Riley, who was sitting in the courtroom, describe some of what we saw, and we also had an opportunity to hear from that first responder talking about how he first arrived at the scene and what he saw. This is an opportunity for the state to lay out what happened when someone arrived at the scene, and of course the defense opportunity to shoot holes in terms of what they saw and that scene was mishandled. A very important part of setting up how this trial will go.
Yeah, no question. And more than just an opportunity for the state, an obligation. Because remember, when Judge Newman said, state, you may call your first witness, the book in the matter of the state versus Alex Murdaugh was blank. All right, we think we know a lot about what's happened, but we've only heard lawyer talk. There's no evidence. And so we begin the process now of getting the evidence in. And so from the state's point of view, it is critical that we get this foundational evidence in, the crime scene evidence, because later that's the evidence upon which the forensic teams and the experts will offer opinions. So if this evidence doesn't come in, it's an opportunity for the defense to say the experts can't talk about what they think the evidence shows.
And this is very important. You said this is a blank slate. The book is open, it's empty. We really have nothing. We know nothing at this point until these first bits of evidence from these witnesses come in. And these are the forensics team, the first responders.
Right.
And what is the defense responsibility to their client at this point?
Yeah, really twofold. If you're the defense, you've got two cracks at this. In a perfect world, you'd knock some of this out. Okay, because again, if this evidence does not come in, then this evidence is foundational for the other experts who are going to be the most important in the case. So if I can exclude, for example, the actual shell casings upon which the ballistics experts will testify, then I'm not going to have ballistics testimony. If I can exclude the cell phones because they weren't handled properly, because the chain of custody was busted, then that evidence doesn't come in, and I don't get to hear about how that plays into the crime. Now, secondarily, to knock the evidence out would be the gold standard. But I also have the opportunity simply to criticize it, and that's what we've heard from Dick all day. I could have pulled the crime scene tape out further. I should have protected the tire tracks. I should have noticed that there were footprints there. He's not, again, he doesn't have to prove anything, but I'm planting these seeds of doubt over and over again. And if I germinate that seed in one or more jurors and they believe that the state didn't do a proper job and I can't trust the evidence, if I can't trust the messenger, I can't trust the message.
This is what you told us yesterday, starting that idea of confusion in terms of those 12 jurors who are watching this very closely. And that's something else that Riley talked about is Alex Murdaugh's reaction in the courtroom. Someone saying that on the phone call he may not have appeared emotional or may not have appeared emotional at that scene. And then the way he appeared in the courtroom. Does that matter, whether he appears emotional or not?
If it matters to anybody on that jury, it matters. And I guarantee you it matters to more than one person on that jury. Now ask yourself, what is the appropriate response? If he's innocent and he comes upon the scene and he sees his son and his wife brutally murdered, what is the appropriate reaction to that? And how do we criticize him? There is no right answer. But for each person on the jury, he's got 24 eyes on him at all times. And they are evaluating him. Does he appear genuine in his emotion at the table? Does it correspond to the emotion that he showed in the field? So yes, it is critical that the jury perceives him as a grieving father and husband and not as a cold-blooded killer.
One other issue that came up today was an issue of conflict of interest. We know that the first responders at the scene may or may not have been familiar with the Murdaugh family and their family's legacy and history in that community. But for some reason, there was a change in command of this investigation.
Yes. Yeah, so the first responders, and you heard this from the chief of the Colleton Police Force, when he came upon the scene, he knew Alex Murdaugh, okay? Knew of the family, knew of the person, and he appreciated, rightfully so, that if he and his team lead the investigation, they're subject to criticism later because of a conflict, because they have this personal relationship. So he made the right call to bring SLED in and let them take lead on the investigation.
So that doesn't necessarily mean they did anything wrong.
No.
It just means that they made a decision at that point to eliminate the risk of a conflict later in the investigation.
I think it means they did everything right. Okay. And had they not done that, you can imagine the criticism that might be forthcoming. If they were Murdaugh loyalists, did they taint the investigation in that direction? If they were anti-Murdaugh folks, did they taint it that way? So the right call was made. Frankly, SLED has excellent resources, and these smaller departments are probably, respectfully to them, not equipped to process a crime scene like this one.
This part of the process might seem a bit tedious, but you said it's a very necessary part of the process, and we should pay very close attention to it.
Oh, this is essential to the case, you know, and maybe this is kind of lawyer insider, but we're building blocks here, okay? And the trial will build. If we don't get the shell casings in, we don't get to talk about the ballistics. If we don't get the cell phones in, we don't get to talk about the tracking of the cell phones. So first it has to come in. In a perfect world, it comes in untainted so that the jury is not confused or impressed that there might be some problem, some taint on that evidence. We want them to accept the evidence and to trust it.
Okay. Ronnie Richter, as always, thank you. And we look forward to our conversation continuing with you tomorrow.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.